Jody. About right?
Yes, that's great.
Good? Okay. Let me check. Justin. Can everybody hear me in the back? Hands up if you can hear me. Hands up if you can't. Perfect. Okay. It is 7:07, so we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming out for the first of hopefully many NorthTown Halls. This is going to be an open format meeting. I've done a number of these in the past. I did a few when I was campaigning. No script, really. I've got a few talking points to kind of get you up to date, and then wide open questions from anybody in the room, having to talk about anything on your mind. If I don't have an answer, I will get you one. All right, a couple updates. So I said most of this at the end of the last city council meeting, but if you're not one of those who can stick out a 2+ hour long all the way to the mayoral comments, I understand. So I'm going to give you a quick update, so bear with me on that. Since taking office about a month and a week, I've had a little over 70 meetings now. 4 of those with Clay County commissioners, representatives from the Royals, developers in town, representative from North Kansas City Hospital, 3 local mayors, the mayor of Liberty, Riverside, and Kansas City, senior staff members here at North Kansas City to talk about their goals, how we can be supportive as a governing body, and the citizens of North Kansas City. Anyone who's really requested a meeting, I've taken the opportunity to sit down with them, talk about what their goals are, form up some advisory committees, and really some robust conversations there. We dug into the Clay County senior tax freeze as it applies to the Northgate Village TIF. Happy to report that many folks have gotten their tax freeze put in place now, so that's great. Met with the business council, and we're running a bit of a program where we're having businesses one at a time come and speak during public comments, sort of tying between the business and the resident communities, helping foster some mutual understanding of what actually goes on in some of these brick facaded warehouses that people don't seem to know. A lot of that, the tax revenue from these businesses pays for the things we see and enjoy as residents. I am piloting ad hoc committees. This is part of my overarching goal to have more civic engagement. It's something I ran on. There are so many issues in town that I have no depth of expertise on, but you know who does? People who live here. And so when people bring an issue to me and say, hey, Mr. Mayor, can you solve this? I say, hey, you seem passionate about this. Let's form a committee. You'll have our support. Let's put together some people, get them in a room. And the idea is to form unofficial bodies of the city to get people's ideas together, to maybe pilot some programs, and then if needed, bring ideas to the city council during public comments that can then be discussed, and maybe we can make some actual official actions. Examples of these are the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which in the building right here, we have Dylan and Kathy, and they have sign-up sheets, so if you are interested in helping out with bike and pedestrian infrastructure or any sort of multimodal transit through North Kansas City, come talk to these good folks here. They are some of the most organized people I have ever met, so you'll have a great time chatting. Yeah, Kathy's deferring. Additionally, we have the Citizen Health Committee. I've gotten confirmations from 6 of 7 on that. The Citizen Health Committee, something I talked a lot about during the campaign, is a group of folks, one representative from the hospital, one from the YMCA, a business in town, and then some residents and a medical doctor to advise on small incremental changes that people can make in their daily lives to work with potentially local restaurants and pilot programs to increase community health. We've got a composting committee in the building as well. Talk to Diane. We got a new resident welcome committee that's being piloted. We got Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Rita, I don't know if Rita's here, but she volunteered at the last council meeting to help spearhead that one. And then we have a community gardening committee. We have community garden at the YMCA and one over in the hospital. Maybe we can do more. If you have ideas for ad hoc committees, or if you people watching have ideas, shoot me an email at mayor@nkc.org and let's chat. We've also gotten the Crummett Beautification Committee reignited. We've at the upcoming council meeting, we'll be nominating and naming the committee, and hopefully they'll be getting back to the job of having beautiful public art in North Kansas City. Very excited about that. I have been tracking the Royals updates, probably the most common question I get, and still the answer is there's not much to talk about. The last update I got is that the governor has officially called a special session on June 2nd to discuss the stadium funding bill. Initially, that was going to be a single issue vote. Now there are more things that are tied in. There's disaster relief from the tornadoes that were in the St. Louis area. I understand that the votes on both of those are very much up in the air. If you follow Missouri politics, it's always pretty much up in the air. So we will be monitoring that. If that were to move forward, we can talk about this. I'm sure there will be questions. If they are to pass that stadium funding bill and put a $300 million mechanism from the state level, then we can start having more conversations at this county and the city level on what it might actually look like. That's when all the questions, all the very valid questions that people have, can be addressed and discussed. We've also set up a negotiating team from the city to mirror what is happening at the county level. There will be 2 council members and myself, along with 3 Clay County commissioners who would then be with the team. So we're ready to roll if we get to that point, so we can start talking real boots on the ground questions. KC Fiber, I see Aaron in the building. Aaron came and presented to the city council. We got some good questions going on there about why don't we have KC Fiber, one of our most amazing municipal amenities, why is that not available in most of the multifamily spaces? And what can the city do about it? And so shortly after we had a meeting, Aaron came down to City Hall, met with Mike and Kim and Brooks, and we talked about solutions. Turns out there's a lot of litigation in this space. There's a lot of lawsuits that block what we are proposing to do. And so we think we might have found an end-around sort of solution. Kim, I got to give credit where credit's due. Kim said, well, we have the Wi-Fi that we're putting in Mackin Park, which officially launched today, Aaron tells me. Is that correct? Officially launched today. If you go to Mackin Park, you can connect to fast and free Wi-Fi, up to 4,000 connections. Unbelievable, yeah. Do it up. So similar to what we're doing there, we could feasibly place the same technology on the perimeters of multifamily developments and beam Wi-Fi in for free, allowing free internet connection for the residents there. We're in talks to pilot one of those. Don't want to let the cat out of the bag too far, but we're digging deep into that. So community feedback from a public comment immediately put into motion. And all the credit goes to Aaron and Kim and the staff and Mike. It's amazing what can be done when people are ready to move. Nominated a lot of official city committee members. 33% of the seats on boards and commissions were vacating as of 2 days from now, or already vacant. And so you'll see if you follow the council agendas, you're going to see a pretty long set of appointments and nominations. Many of you in the room have gotten emails saying, hey, welcome to a board. So you'll see that at the coming council meeting. We're streamlining our legal processes. Our city councilor is excellent. He has been with the city for 235 years this week, I think. He is a phenomenal source of information. He knows his stuff, but he's got a lot going on. And so we brought on legal aid, a legal assistant, and one of her early marching orders is to delve in and see what sort of artificial intelligence tools exist in the legal space to streamline contracting, to stop the backlog of things that are more rote sort of tasks and really fix that backlog. We launched the North Kansas City Police Department Foundation right here in this room. This is a community-led initiative that seeks to fill gaps when the city's budget doesn't cover. For example, Chief Freeman has been asked this week actually to project for the next 12 or 18 months worth of needs for the police department. And as we know, it's difficult to project the next 15 minutes in this day and age, let alone the next handful of months. So if there are things that change, the city can do a budget amendment, but failing that, this group can come in and help. So if you'd like to make a donation or talk more about that, Chief Freeman's also in the room. Go corner him over there and have a discussion. We're also working on a centralized communication solution. This is something, again, I talked about a lot, whether it's an app or whether it's leveraging something we already have in-house to find a way to get messages out efficiently to all of you and everyone in the city, and then to get feedback, to get both two-way communication. We're working through that with our tech provider and with Steven, who's our, I forget his official network engineer, all things technology at City Hall. And then I have a meeting scheduled for, I think it's next week, maybe the week after next, to talk about streamlining the codes enforcement process, something that on our community survey was one of our lowest scoring things. How can we streamline it? How can we get things cleaned up as residents report them? How can we facilitate the residents being able to report things? And what's that going to look like? We're also going to talk about maybe some zoning code updates, opening up zoning possibly into allowing some multi-unit builds in single-family zones, pending neighborhood character. There's a lot of things at play. These are just things we're going to explore. So that is my full-page summary of the first month. I am very excited to be in this role, and I am excited to hear what's on your mind. So with that, Kim has a teeny tiny microphone similar to the one right here. If you have a question, please raise your hand and speak near the microphone so that the recording can pick it up. Yes, sir.
Thanks for holding the town hall.
Just speak up.
Okay, thanks for holding the town hall. Question is, as far as like the ad hoc committees, it's a good idea. Has one ever thought about the crime? I know crime has increased in our city, not just our city, but other cities, property crime, theft. So is there any kind of opportunity there for the ad hoc committee to tackle that topic, tackle that issue?
So increase in crime and property crime in the city ad hoc committee to address that. Not something that's been proposed. I'm not opposed to it. Chief Freeman could probably give us. Okay, so the question was, we've had an increase metro-wide, but in the city, property crime, forced pirating, thefts of things out of vehicles. Is there a possibility for an ad hoc committee to help address that? And like with all ad hoc committees, there's always that possibility if citizens want to get together and put some ideas in play. Absolutely would welcome that. Chief Freeman brings crime stats on every council agenda. I think trespassing was the big one that we saw this last time. But yeah, we're keeping up on that. There are some citizens that care deeply about that. Happy to support you guys getting together, talking up solutions, and bringing them to the city council and to the police department. What other questions do we have? Not everybody at once. I know some people are still finishing their meals.
Jesse, this might give you one out of the but with the property tax relief that it was city council
Yep.
have approved, what sort of hole does that potentially leave in the city's budget and going up?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. So this is about the Clay County senior tax freeze. This is a program that is a bit of a double-edged sword, in my personal and full honest opinion. It's one of those things that, if I understand the mechanics correctly, it's a state-led program that then the county was willing to implement, and they did it in a manner that if the county commission didn't act, citizens could have brought this forth, and it might have been a less well-crafted item. And so the county commissioners put it in play. We had 17,000 seniors across the county apply and qualify for this program. Many of those in North Kansas City. The reason it even came to us is because we have a unique tax increment financing district in Northgate Village, the neighborhood just off Mackin Park. And that was, without going way too deep in the weeds, I addressed it at a council meeting. The city spent $29 million over the course of a handful of years to redevelop the area that is Northgate Village, the Gardens Apartments, City View Apartments, and all the way out to Burlington. And created a tax increment financing district to redirect what would have been tax revenue off of those properties to help pay the city back. And what the question was, is there's a legal gray area where this is our tax increment financing district. Could the county freeze tax assessments within that district? And there's a whole lot of weird, nuanced things along with that. And so they asked our opinion, and we said, well, there's 17,000 others. There were 65, I believe, senior qualifying households in Northgate Village. The other 17,000 are going to get it. We said it seems only fair that the 65 living in Northgate Village would also get that benefit. And to put numbers to it, that would look to create about a $250,000 funding gap over the remainder of the TIF, the next 8 years. $250,000 in Northgate in particular, but that TIF is already $4+ million into the black. So it's not going to hurt us for Northgate Village. Broader, I haven't seen those numbers projected. It sounds like a big hole. So 65 equals 250,000, extrapolate that across 17,000 across the county. You got to take a lot of variables into play. What is the market going to do? What are the values of homes doing? But as many of you know, you saw your tax assessments. They went up. I mean, I think I saw 40+% on a few. So it will create a funding gap. Before the county put it in place, I understand they spoke with the school district, because the school district is a major recipient of those tax dollars. 60–70% of those tax dollars going into the school district. And the school district, the North Kansas City School District CFO, did not express significant concern with the funding gap. We'll see what happens. It was sort of done at a level that was above our pay grade. The only part that we had any sort of influence on was North Cape Village. Great question. And nobody's going to run you out of the room.
I'll just say, nobody likes paying taxes, but
Yep.
there's trade-offs.
Yeah, I mean, the trade-offs, I understand. It's important, especially with folks on fixed incomes who want to stay in their homes, and that number just keeps on going up. And then the flip side is that's less tax for the other things we need to accomplish. On top of that, we saw the surtax on businesses go away. And so we're looking at funding gaps that could become pretty sizable. Fortunately, property tax is not a massive component of our budget. We're going to do we're entering budget season, so we'll see how all that stacks out. There will be some projections coming forward. What other questions do we have?
New resident, been here less than a year.
Welcome.
Thank you. I remember from the mayoral campaign, there was discussion about the development east of 29.
Yep.
I don't know what that's called off the top of my head, but
Wonderful.
I recall that there was some litigation that was sort of holding up what was going on over there. And I just was hoping you could maybe speak about anything that's going on, anything that's changed, and what might be going in there if that clears up.
Phenomenal question. Thank you for bringing that up. So the question was on the One North development. That is, for those not into the naming things we use in the city, that's on the other side of I-35, 29. That's the space that has been, since I've lived here, slated for a grocery store. We have some apartments there. We've got some restaurants and a jewelry store over there. But yes, it was tied up in litigation. Obviously, we'll pick my words carefully because litigation being what it is, you don't want to step on too many landmines. That is settled. So we've settled the litigation. We did that roughly, 5 or 6 days after the election. We had a special council meeting to bless the final. And so that's settled, and we can start to move forward. And we're looking at this upcoming council agenda. We'll have a discussion among the governing body members of a request for proposal for the remaining sites over there. And so pretty excited about possibilities. We've gotten, people have heard the litigation was settled, and so immediately people are starting to propose ideas and things and exciting things. Kim has been compiling a list of things that people have brought, but we're going to try to go through the most transparent process we can. We're going to put it out publicly. Look, hey, if you have good ideas, if you have thoughts on what could go over there, bring them to us. We're going to look at all of those, and just very excited to see this project finally moving forward. Also, tune into the city council meeting because I believe Kim has a slide deck with, as of this morning, 41, okay, we're down to 41 slides. I think it started at 60 plus, on the history of that entire area. It's actually pretty fascinating. It was a super fun site, which is not as great as it sounds. A lot of environmental remediation needed there. And so the city's done a lot of work, more than you would even recognize looking at it. And to get to this point, and it was very frustrating to sit and watch the grass grow, but we're looking to move on forward from that. So exciting things coming.
Well,
A follow-up on that is the mindset still a question of it being a destination, a kind of strategy, like originally it was like this is gonna bring people in, a destination site. Is that still kind of the mindset, or are we kind of reopening that?
We're going to find out Tuesday. So it'll be a council-driven thing, and bring your comments. Hey, another plug for bring public comments in. We changed how we do it so we can talk back and forth a little bit if you bring a comment. So it will be a big discussion item. My goal is to continue to have it as a destination, something that will bring people into North Kansas City. I also want it to benefit the residents who are here. I don't want to just make it flashy for people to come in from South Johnson County and come visit us. I want it to be cool things for our people to do as well. So no specific goals yet.
Does the city own the ground with the present grocery store?
Say that one more time. Where the what?
Present grocery store.
The Save-A-Lot. Yeah, it's a kind of unique lease situation that they have. I forget the term on the lease. We kicked it forward.
3 years with one renewal.
Yeah, so it's a continually renewing kind of thing. Yeah, we own it, but it's a ground lease with Save-A-Lot. What other questions do we have? Yep.
It's not very sophisticated, but what's the story behind that La Quinta in the sketch closed La Quinta?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
poor people.
Hey.
How's it been?
Excellent. The question was on the La Quinta Inn over in Ward 4. I don't know the full story. I know they had a lot of issues. I think it was fire suppression. Maybe there was a lot. So it has been shuttered for the time. I don't know if there are plans or what the ownership structure is at this point, but something that definitely want to be looking at how can we reduce blight in the city, and that's one of the properties that could be certainly on target for that. What other questions do we have? Yep.
Jesse, I wondered if you could explain to me the relationship between the city and the YMCA. What part of the YMCA does the city own and is responsible for? And the reason I ask is because I texted you earlier this week about our pool is at 71 degrees. We have no heaters.
Yep.
We still have people coming, bless their hearts. But I teach a water class there, and I can't tell them. I don't have an update for them.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering if you could back it out a little bit and explain the relationship, because I know it changed as of this year.
Yep.
And then any updates you have on maintenance, boiler situation, that kind of thing.
Sure. Great question. So the city's relationship with the YMCA. This was one, if you want to go into the Wayback Machine, the city built that building as a community center for the residents. I want to say it was 1999, around. But the city was busy in the late 1900s, the early aughts. They were doing a lot of things, so they built the community center and then tried to run that center from City Hall, and it turns out that's difficult to do. I believe at its bottom, it was losing a little over $1 million a year as a community center. And at that point, the city put out a bid or reached out to the YMCA. I'm not exactly sure the history of that, how that relationship came to be. But the YMCA ended up taking over operations of the facility under a 10-year contract. And so this was 10 years ago as of end of year. And they were tasked with bringing it back up to get it back in the black. There was a lot of back and forth on putting new equipment in, and the city, being the owner of the building, piloted a lot of putting the equipment in. The YMCA was to be maintaining the building up to a certain dollar amount, and if it hit over $5,000, it became a capital expenditure. But over the years, there were many changes in executive directors of that facility. Oftentimes, things were getting lost in communication. And when we didn't have eyes on the maintenance because it wasn't our responsibility, what we have found now in the new agreement, this is sort of a paradigm shift, is we are now taking ownership and responsibility for maintaining that building. We took away the amount we paid them. So we had a dollar amount that we were paying to the YMCA to, it's called an executive management fee, I believe. And so we were paying them, we took that off the table, now we maintain the building. And as we've gone in, we
Inside and out.
Inside and out, yes. And we're getting our arms around it. We're talking 10 plus years of things that were, kind of cobbled together, kind of held together with duct tape and glue, and the boilers being one of those. So we've got a dedicated maintenance person for that facility who is supported by our public works department. It's 1.5 employees, Two. Okay, so we have 2 employees, and they've been in putting together a master list of the things that are coming down the pipe. And a lot of those are going to the budget, but the boilers are kind of that immediate need because, oh my goodness, that pool is cold. Has anybody been into the pool at the Y over the last little bit? Allegedly, and I've heard this through the grade, 70 is where it's legally you have to shut the pool down. If anybody swam in a natural spring somewhere, that's about 70 degrees. It is very cold. So we got the boilers, we ordered them on the 23rd of April, and so those should be in next week, hopefully. And as soon as they come in, they're getting installed. So as soon as it was brought to our attention, there was a gas leak with one of them. One was on its last leg, and the other one just gave up, and so we're replacing all 3. All 3 with the original group that did it. We got some environmental incentives to go along with that. But we're doing all kinds of roof patching, pool patching, concrete work. There's a whole list, and we're going to kind of go by like screaming in our head priorities first, and then down to the aesthetics. But you're going to see a lot of work done at the
So
facility.
if we have a question about the maintenance or why something hasn't been repaired yet, can we call the Public Works Department, or do we talk to the Y about that?
You can talk to the Y, they'll call the Public Works Department, or you could call them directly because we have employees. Or you could call Mike. Call up the City Hall, ask for Mike. Mike can point you in the direction you need to go. But it is the city's responsibility now. And if you're seeing things that we haven't seen, or you're wondering why it hasn't been done yet, it's either on the list or needs to be. Thank you. Yeah.
So is there anything
Yeah, Mike, come
everybody's
over.
talking about loosely on my voice carries?
Oh, we got one for the video.
Okay, so the recording. Is there anything that anybody is talking about coordinating the pool and gym things that are offered by North Kansas City Hospital, which I run circles around the Wise got 82 degrees. Working, coordinating with Wise programs to pick, why it's always full and, it's
Sure.
a full rush. But is there anything out there that I'm talking about coordinating these things? I think the hospital has, that pool and its programs are perfect for senior citizens. You couldn't touch it ever or anything better. But I don't see any coordination going on. Is there even a discussion about coordinating that stuff?
So there is. This is part of the Citizen Health Committee that I'm putting together. We've finally gotten commitments from, like I say, 6 of the 7 folks, and one of those is Michelle Lane at the hospital. If any of you have not met Michelle Lane, I encourage you to do so. I describe her as a ray of sunshine personified. One of just the most exuberant people I've ever met, and she, when I sat down with her, was telling me about all these programs the hospital has that I had no idea about. And I'm about as plugged in as you go. And so I said, Michelle, what are you doing? Like, how you got to get this stuff pumped out. And so part of that Citizen Health Committee will be getting those programs out to the residents, letting people know what exists.
That's where I plug in.
What's that?
That committee is where I plug in.
Okay, you want to get, all right, if you want to be the mouthpiece, let's go. We'll talk afterwards. Send me an email, mayor@nkc.com. I know. I got to have a way to keep it all straight, because you tell me it'll go out the other ear before the end of the night. But that is something that we need to get going. I learned that some crazy things that I had no idea were going on. So the hospital has a policy that if they remove a tree, they have to put a fruit tree back. So they're growing food on their campus. They have gone away mostly from ornamental plantings to food-based and edible plantings. And then to go further with that, there's a group of generally older men who come in and they have mobility issues, so they work through a program at the hospital. And while they're there, their wives who come with them have just been kind of sitting in their vehicles waiting. And so Michelle went out and knocked on the windows of these vehicles and brought them in to help with the gardening. And so now they've got a little club that comes in and helps with the gardening. These are the kind of things that are going on at the hospital that nobody knows about. And then I said, Michelle, get the loudspeakers or shouting out this stuff, because this is incredible work. So anything going on over there, I think the word is getting across to the residents. What else do we have? You're able to ask more than one question too, if you have a second one that occurs to you. Oh, hey, all right.
Can you talk about,
We'll get used to it. Yeah.
could you talk about how North Kansas City is preparing for the World Cup?
World Cup question. Thus far, I have not been read into those preparations much. I had a meeting with Mayor Kathy Rose of Riverside, who is on top of this stuff, and I was energized by that discussion because she has so many thoughts and ideas. And if you haven't met Kathy Rose, she's an incredible individual. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity with the World Cup coming in. We have a few discussions with community development that are on the books, I believe, but nothing specifically tied yet to World Cup. So it's something I know that has been asked around town. It's something I want to be getting into, especially with it's mid-26 when it's coming in, right? And it's going to be about a 2-month blitz of activity. Transit being one of the really big things that Kathy brought to my attention is KCATA is struggling to move just our residents around. How are we going to take a huge influx of folks from all over the world, not only message it to how's this going to work, but get them in and out of where they need to go. So it's going to be a lot to get our arms around. But there will be events. There's going to be big events at Riverside. I hope that we're going to have some stuff going on here. I know Kim has been working on that stuff. But I've been drinking from the fire hose, so I'm trusting the staff is also on top of this kind of stuff. I'm getting nods, so good.
Couple of things. Since you mentioned transit, I know that we're good on our contracts, I think, until the end of the year. There's probably not much to say yet on that as far as how it's gonna work and why it depends on Kansas City, the KCHA. So kind of what are your thoughts on that, if you have any at this time? The only other question I had is too, is there any kind of funding or the commons area behind the chapels and those businesses back there? We talked about village community and is there anything with that federal funding that's been tied up with those?
Okay. So the first question is transit, KCATA, and if you've followed much about what's going on over the past few years, you know that I've been locked in a battle with the KCATA over transparency primarily, and then how they are proposing funding increases. I don't have answers for that. I do know that, again, in the discussion with Mayor Rose of Riverside, we're all struggling in the Northland. You saw, if you follow headlines, Iris was looking to be disbanded. That's the program with the ride shares. Shockingly, it ran out of money because it was propped up with ARPA funds. That's the COVID relief funds. They were set to sunset. Like, we knew that money was going away. And so when if you recall, there was a brief point where we transitioned from our circulator bus, our Metroflex, to Iris, and it didn't go great. We got a lot of feedback from the community, so a couple months in, we snapped that off, went back to the circulator bus, which is people love, and we went out to bid on transit solutions. And so we formed up a transit committee. We opened it up. Hey, bring us any ideas you have. And we got a number of ideas, many of which were mostly tech companies that we have an app and we'll coordinate your rides. And we said, okay, that's neat. You can be efficient. What about your cars? So like, we'll get to that. We'll figure out the cars. Okay, I don't think we can go that route. Then we had options for running fixed buses just up and down Burlington, one into the other, and you can connect to the Kansas City stop, you can connect to the Glassville stop. That didn't seem like a worthwhile solution either, and also against the east-west. And then we had KCATA come back and pitch Iris in a different fashion. When they initially told us they were going to do Iris, it was going to be curb to curb. They told us, we'll do curb to curb. What that ended up meaning is if you're a senior and you want to go from the Gardens Apartments to the North Kansas City Hospital, they'll pick you up at CVS and drop you off at McDonald's. And people were having to walk up to a quarter of a mile in whatever weather it happened to be. And so that's why we quickly shut the program down and went back to the Metroflex. And so when they came back to us, we said, we wanted to point, as you told us. And they said, well, that's going to, I don't remember the exact number, but it was something crazy like $80+ per ride. And they said, well, don't worry, we have ARPA funds, those can subsidize, but those are going to go away. And so we're at that point now with Iris where the ARPA funds are going away. Kansas City, I believe it was the KCATA or Kansas City Council, did a short-term funding gap to keep Iris running for a little while longer, but when that goes away, and I've been asking the question, what's next? We've lost fixed route. Like, we don't have fixed route in Riverside. well, you can't get on a fixed route bus and go into Gladstone, because when the numbers went way up, they said, well, we'll take the Iris solution. Now the Iris solution is not viable. So how are we going to reknit that? I did sit down for lunch with Quentin Lucas yesterday, and I let him off the hook easy because I wanted to get to know him. I think he's a really nice guy, and he's got a lot of great ideas, but transit is something he's now putting some focus into. He even wrote something today on social media that we got to get serious about transit. Like, there's budget gaps happening in other cities. We're seeing that happening in Kansas City, and how do we get our arms around this? So I have volunteered to be part of that. If I am so fortunate to be chosen to get us a seat at the table as an enclave city, but it's a big open question. Second part of that was Town Square. I believe that was the other part. So Town Square is colloquially known as the area behind chapels, and if you've never seen it, I understand, because it doesn't really stand out. It's kind of hidden back there. And we have long had a goal. I think we've had a number of public engagement sessions where you do the stickers on the boards of the things you like, and you pick out this sort of bench and that sort of lighting solution, and people get really excited and energized, and then it goes nowhere. So that is something that is on our radar. We did put in a request to Emmanuel Cleaver's office for what was the final number? $3 million, and it's headed up to the federal legislature, where, again, if anybody wants to put bets on how that goes, I'm listening. So we'll see. I'm hopeful. I am supposed to meet with Mr. Cleaver on the 16th of June, and we're going to talk about Town Square. We're going to talk about other things that are going on in North Kansas City. So that's something that we're optimistic. I've seen some really cool renderings, too, of what it could look like. But we want to energize that area. What other question? Yes. Yep. Kim's getting her steps in tonight.
Okay. First one is, being the introvert that I am, I'm not really into us being a destination place, but that shit happens. So, here's a problem with a destination place. You have destinations, and you have these sudden draws on your police and fire department that are not 24/7, they're just sort of like this, and they're expensive. So when everybody plans these destination places, and they think about things like kids or whatever, who's out there watching to make sure that the residents aren't bearing the brunt of no police or fire protection because some event going on, or our expenses go way up while some event is going on that's not covering that?
Sure.
And then we finish that, I'll do question number 2.
Sure. So the question, if you could hear, how are we planning for destination style events, or if we're building destination types of things, how are we adequately policing, how are we providing fire and emergency services? And that's something, so I can point back to what I would call Royals 1.0. So when we went through the process the first time with the Royals, a big overarching question we had when it finally got to the city level, very, very late in the process, it got to the city level. And we said, okay, police, fire, public works, what sort of resources do we need to service something like a stadium district? So if we're going to have these big events and people, this big influx of people into town, what would that look like? What numbers, what funding, how are we going to pay for that? And that was something that was rolled into the package that we eventually discussed with the team that they frankly ignored and chose to go to Crossroads. But that is something that we pay attention to. I don't see us building anything that's going to drastically increase the need for police in the One North development. It'll be, if anything, things like a chicken and pickle, a destination style restaurant or bar, entertainment venue. But if we are to go down the road with the Royals or the Chiefs or anything like that, our eyes are definitely on providing services to that sort of activity.
I'm not really thinking about things like the Royals or the Chiefs,
Sure.
a destination place, like, Oval and Park, the whole world goes over there. Criminals follow this because they're opportunists.
Sure.
Okay, so when the criminals follow this because they're opportunists, then the demand for police and people having health problems, just like cars on fire or whatever the hell, it's just going to be a little momentary thing that just happens. And here you sit with this surprise.
Sure.
How do you guys deal with how does that get paid for when the surprise happens?
Sure. Comparably across the metro, I would think more like Country Club Plaza, when it's not a big royal style destination, but when people go down there, they're coming from all over and there's crime happening. I have the utmost trust in our police and fire departments. We also have a chief of police who is here tonight who is actively involved in these kind of discussions, who cares deeply about making sure we have the adequate resources. So we're standing something up that's going to strain our police resources. I'm sure I'm going to hear about it. I'm sure he's going to tell the city administrator about it. We're not doing anything where it's this bubble is planning something and the police and fire are completely left out of it, and then we get the big surprise. They're in the discussion, they're part of planning anything that moves forward in NorthTown.
And I have a question, but honestly, it's.
Hey, that happens.
It's gone, so it'll come
I'm
back
sure
later.
it'll come back
It's
to you.
got something to do about the fact that even though I'm old and I kind of know what a nap is, I can wake up tomorrow morning and not recognize a freaking hamburger menu, and everything is online, and everybody's got apps, videos, and whatever. And I can wake up tomorrow and be too stupid to deal with it, but I'm still good at living in my house. I don't remember my damn question.
It happens to the best of us.
So I'm curious what's going on with the underpass under 35 for pedestrians and bikes and safety, and what is going on and how we're working on that.
Yeah, I know we did renderings on that, and then I think Kim might have an update for the group. That went to MoDOT, and then help me out here. Where did we land on
The
that?
2935 study to widen that corridor kind of put the stop on our intention of putting in a more pedestrian-friendly infrastructure system down there. So just for everybody's knowledge, MoDOT is studying the I-35-29 corridor to possibly add another lane to it. So our renderings and our engineering are to the size it is now. It's not to an additional lane on each side. And we would be building in MoDOT right of way, which they're going to need if that widens.
So when is MoDOT going to have a decision? I know.
Well, when is MoDOT going to have a decision?
We have a new MoDOT contact. It's our 4th in 2 years.
Okay. Never.
So what I'm hoping though is that they will finish, they're in the engineering and environmental component of that study. Any federal or large project, they have to hit milestones, and if it becomes unfavorable, then the project stops. But it does continue to be favorable, so we're supposed to have kind of another milestone report out, hoping soon. And I'm not sure if everybody came to the MoDOT meeting on Wednesday. They did have a meeting at the YMCA to discuss the 169 redecking project, which does somewhat pause this one. So some of their challenges, it's almost a waterbed. When one bridge becomes dangerous, they kind of have to stop some of the other irons in the fire. That's kind of where they're at on that one. I will keep you up to date.
And I do see our head of our Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee taking copious notes on that one. So it's something that even if MoDOT needs all the approvals, we can at least start to explore what that looks like. Because that is a big divide in the city. Now it's Ward 4 kind of straddles 35, but like moving people across there, especially not in a car, is the opposite of fun. Something we should be looking at.
I walked it yesterday and I was like, I like this.
Yeah, not a great experience.
This is kind of building on the same question. Like my wife mentioned, we live in Ward 4 and we bicycle around quite a bit. We go to different multi-use trails in the area for that. So we'd love to, be able to, easily ride from North Kansas City to say connect to like the Wine Creek Trail or something like that. And as we were leaving for work in the morning, we both work. I work downtown, so we're midtown Kansas City. We always kind of eyeing that right of way that's sort of connected to where the new River Forest Park is going to be. Pardon me. And then, has there been any explorations of connecting that under the highway to get to the other side? Because I just think there might be opportunities there that don't involve the sidewalk infrastructure that's below, along Armor. And,
Right.
I mean, it'd just be, if they're thinking about rebuilding that anyway, it might be just a great opportunity to connect these two sides through a different way.
Yes, so that was a question about connectivity from River Forest area, the neighborhood over on the hill by the hospital, and then broader connectivity of trails for biking and pedestrian activity. We have the pedestrian and the trail study. I don't know if that's been concluded yet. I know that we funded a portion of it. It's a multi-county effort to connect the Northland Trail Network. And it's funny you should mention from here to Lion Creek, because I actually ride my bike up to the Lion Creek Community Center area to pick my kids up from school on my bike most days. I can show you a pretty decent trail network, but it's not fully connected. And so there are opportunities to get out from here with minimal touch to the road, but depending on your comfort level of riding, also if you can pound up North Oak Hill, that's a lot. I cheat, I have an e-bike. But that's something we are diving into. We funded a portion of that study, and I'm excited to see the results once they're put out there. The connection between River Forest and 35 is something that I have heard some things about, but if you have specific ideas, I'd love to hear more about that. Because I can confess, that's not my area of expertise. I've walked the new River Forest Park. It's crazy back there. Big redevelopment. But if you see an opportunity to get across the highway in a new way, let's talk about that. Came back. All right, hold on.
Probably unlike most of the people in this room, I have walked back and forth underneath that highway for probably as long as it's like at least 30 years. The problem with that is, one, it's scary as all get out, especially at night, because it's like these little places where, God knows who lives in there and jumps out of things. And the other thing is that people going up down the road throw trash out their windows, but you are dodging when you walk through there. It's horrible. But has anybody ever considered that maybe in the meantime, maybe we can put eyeballs in there so that people feel a little safer, at least if there's some kind of something somebody is watching to make sure that if somebody's being housed underneath there, somebody knows about it.
Sure.
And it is a hell of a walk at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to Denny's.
I've not made the 2 a.m. walk today. I can imagine that would be harrowing. I understand we got active patrol running back and forth at any hour of the day.
Can't see.
Sure.
They cannot see.
It is dark under there.
And it's dark under there. It's quite a lot of basically obstruct anybody's view of anybody.
Sure. I'm not sure what solutions.
Real fast.
I don't know what's been proposed at this point to light up underneath there, but all that would run through MoDOT. And so it's a discussion we could have. I know that we got pretty far down the road on specking out the actual pedestrian infrastructure that we were really excited about. And when that plan died due to their expansion, I'm not sure that there's been any reapproach on how we could handle that underpass.
Ignoring MoDOT surveillance and something, sweeping the place once in a while would do a lot.
Sure. Sweet. There you go. What other questions do we have?
I would follow
Hold up, you didn't come in when the microphone was being passed around. There you go.
Thank you. I'm curious process for the city anytime we investigate bike pedestrian infrastructure. It just seems like we've gotten far down the road on a lot of these studies, and then it's small MoDOT came in. I'm just trying to understand like, what's the process where they're consulted prior to maybe spending a lot of money, spending a lot of time on some of these, just so that we're aware of what we can and can't do.
Yeah. So the question is on process. When do we bring MoDOT into the discussion? And as we're studying these different aspects, when does that happen? And then we hit resistance. It seems like we're always hitting it late in the process. I can say from experience a number of times that we've put something out there. We've had, as Kim mentioned, a leadership change with MoDOT that had fully different ideas about what was appropriate, what was, we have engineered drawings, for example, of Burlington Corridor that had a proposed cycle track. And then when the leadership changed at MoDOT, they changed the rubric by which they wanted to judge that. I have not been part of the Northland Trail study. We funded it, and then I'm waiting to hear back the results, but I don't know if you know more about when MoDOT or other stakeholders get involved in the process.
Typically, because if we're talking about their right of way, we have to be at the table at the very beginning.
Okay.
Because we are making plans on their property, right? We can't come in too late in the process because just like any good project, you need all your partners at the table every step of the way. Like the mayor has said, we've had a lot of leadership changes in our MoDOTs over the last 2 years. We've had four different contacts, and every time they bring something in, or to their defense, sometimes other projects get reprioritized. Like I never thought in my life I'd live in CI-70 life.
Yeah.
Heard about it for years, it's actually happening. So sometimes you get the legislature that will fund the project, and then it's reprioritized on MoDOT's plate. The I-2935 study did, because we were also studying another connectivity off 16, the one north area to connect specifically down to the rabbit hole, because that corridor is widening and impacted both of those connectivities, because you go underneath and touch their property. So they are at the table every step of the way. Again, sometimes the ground moves underneath their feet as well. We can't just build stuff on their property. We have to enter into an agreement. So some of the challenges, people move, and priorities move, whether it's the people at the table or the people above that make that agreement happen.
So if anybody could hear that, I'll summarize. We bring in stakeholders at the very beginning of the process. So if it's on MoDOT's right of way, we're talking to them early. But priorities did change, projects get reprioritized. For example, we did a lot of the work, and MoDOT was aware of this work for the trail and the track underneath I-35, and then a project got reprioritized to widen the highway. All discussion ceases on the plans underneath until they figure out what they're doing. That sort of thing happens. Leadership changes with the Burlington corridor also changes the discussion. And then Kim mentioned the right-of-way that we were talking about to bring connectivity for bike pedestrians from this side all the way through 1 North and around where the rabbit hole is, also got shelved because of the potential widening in the highway. Because we were going to run those parallel to the highway down the side, and now that space might be used for extra lanes. So it's always a moving target, and as I've learned being in municipal government now for a little over 6 years, everything takes longer than you hope it does. So in the process, the planning and the bidding and all of that, by the time you finally taken this fledgling idea and made it happen, something else completely unrelated may have changed in the interim. And that's a big frustrating thing for us and for the residents who aren't sitting in the rooms watching the sausage get made. And then they're like, all of a sudden, oh, that's no longer happening. Typically, there's about 9 different reasons why, and it's hard to even articulate them all out at the time that it all hits the fan. Good question. What other question?
Is there any progress on the idea of building our own fire department training tower in North Kansas City, since we're having more multi-level resident buildings in our city limits?
I'm guessing that came out of the Citizens Academy. Yeah, hey, all right. So there's a plug. The North Kansas City Citizens Academy is an amazing program. I will answer your question, I promise. Amazing program piloted by Kim to teach folks who live here everything there is to know about North Kansas City and how the city functions, and how deeper than that, how municipal government should function. I think it's up to, is it 10 weeks now or 8 weeks? 10 weeks. It books up the second it goes live. It's harder to get a spot in the Citizens Academy than it is to get a spot at the pickleball league here. Incredible. So next time you see that go live, jump on it. But the question was, is there any further talk about a fire training facility in North Kansas City? Yes, so I sat down with the fire chief and the city administrator, and we talked about Station 2, which is over toward the Paseo industrial area. That's the spot for, again, naming conventions, over on the other side of the tracks that run through North Kansas City. It's where a lot of industrial businesses. Station 2 could house a second a training facility over there. They've got some space available. It's how do we do it, and can we fit it in the budget? budget for this year. Right now, I believe they're training. Where are they training? Okay.
Black County.
Okay, so they're training elsewhere, and we're paying for that. So having our own in-house facility is a priority of the fire chief. It's something he's brought to us, and I've asked him to include it in their budget for capital needs as we start the budget season. So hopefully we're going to see that.
Seems like a year ago, I remember something about vehicle charging stations that the city was gonna put in. Did that just die?
What? Where did that one go? Because we had a match grant funding. Did that?
We applied
We didn't
for
get
it.
the grant.
We didn't get the grant. Okay. Because we had a lot of robust discussion about where those were going to go, what kind of chargers, and didn't get the grant. There you go. Need a lot of money to make that happen. And so if we're going to explore it, we need to find another federal or state grant. I don't know that those are too numerous at this point, especially for things like electric vehicle charging or any climate-based initiative. So, what other questions? Come on now. This group, all these faces I see, I know there's lots of questions. There we go. All right.
I'm just curious about what does it take for the city to clear a building or an area?
Yes. Okay. That felt targeted, then you went ahead and targeted, which I appreciate. What does it take to declare something blight? We did a blight study back in 2008, I want to say, and I maybe we could do another one of those, but that's part of the discussion I'm having with the Coast Department on the 6th is what are the tools in our toolkit to rid ourselves of the vacant, decaying homes and buildings like a Denim and Diamonds. Oftentimes there are multiple layers of nonsense, mostly legal stuff, through probate courts, and I'm exploring all options to cut through that, to make it onerous to have a vacant building in town. What are we legally allowed to do to the maximum extent? How can we put extra pressure on buildings like that are in our central business district and are just, I tell people every time, Luke Bryan on the front of that building is 22 years old. I don't know how long it's been since that sticker was put on, but it's been too long. And if anyone in this room can figure out how to reactivate that space, I will personally lead the first line dance if it reopens. So that's a promise. But yeah, we're looking into that. It's still in probate, as far as I last heard. Hold on. Yep. Gotta think of the people at home. All right.
Okay, you addressed the business vacant buildings, what about the vacant houses?
Yep.
I mean, that's a little different story.
It is a different, so this is about vacant houses. So same thing. I'm having a discussion with the community development director. We're aware of the ones. I could probably drop pins in every house that's sitting vacant. The facades are rotting off. The screens are getting bashed in. They've got the big green vacant tags in their mailboxes. What can we do about that? At a minimum, what can we do to make sure that the lawn doesn't get this high and that it's not a nuisance to the neighborhood? But beyond that, what can we do to encourage those to either be cleaned up and redeveloped or to change hands to somebody that will? And so that's a discussion I'm having on the 6th with our community development director, our city administrator, and I've asked them to find, to the maximum extent, what can we as a city do? Because there's some things that you have to follow legal processes. You got to notice things up. You got to send letters and register letters and post things. But is there a way to cut through some of that and to make it onerous to have a vacant home in town?
I think you can levy a tax, levy taxes on other things.
All ideas are on the table, and so I don't. And levying taxes gets into other votes and jurisdictions and all that, but fees or we'll see. Like that's what I've asked for. Like every tool you can come up with, creative, crazy, whatever's on the table, and then we'll talk through what can we do. Because I don't want to see those things sit vacant. We have people who want to live in North Kansas City. We have a housing shortage and we need those houses back in active status. And it's just bad for the block. We literally all know which houses we're talking about. So, thank you. There's something we're digging into. Any questions on that?
It's not so much a question, but we're from Joplin, and we have the same problem with the vacant houses and everything like that. What happens is, people buy these houses, they rent them out, and once they're condemned and no longer livable, they move states, and they just leave it there. So what Joplin did is they give a tax break to contractors to get a hold of that owner, buy that house at a price, fix it up, and resell it. So that is something you could look at. It's been working pretty well in Joplin right now.
Awesome.
That's just an idea.
That's in Missouri, so
Yeah.
finding a hole somewhere in the Missouri state law, and that's great. We'll dig into that. Thank you for it. Any tools that other people in the room have seen similar things. We got Kathy over here as well.
I saw this in first.
Oh.
I just want to make a quick statement.
Sure, same topic.
We're trying to take notes. So when you, well, you know, I never turned my mic on.
Yep.
When you make your statement, would you please say your name? We're taking notes. And I will everybody.
Sorry, I feel like I'm dominating this.
You're good, man. This is what it's for.
Tonight, but like I mentioned, we're new, and I have a lot of curiosities. My name is Michael Wells, by the way.
Sure.
And so you mentioned earlier the One North development and some of the environmental remediation that needs to be done to make that redevelopment possible. And I kind of have a two-part question. So, are there other development opportunities in the industrial sort of business sector of North Kansas City? And if so, are the challenges things like environmental remediation? Are the hurdles too much, or is there other things in the way of that?
Sure. So the question is on redevelopment, using the One North as an example. Are there other opportunities through town? And if so, is it too onerous to remediate environmental concerns? It's never too onerous. It just might cost a lot of money. The reason that One North is the way it is because the city undertook an initiative to get all of that property back into our possession as a city well before any of our time, but got it all back, bought it up as it became available, condemned some of it, moved Burger King to the parcel they're on now, and then took over the whole site. And Kim, again, will go through most of this, but then had to remediate everything that was in the ground there through the environmental studies. As far as the rest of town and why it sort of looks the way it does now, is up until just a little over a year ago, most of North Kansas City was owned, most of the industrial portion of North Kansas City, south of Armour Road, was owned by one entity, NT Realty, who was part of the actual group that founded the city and then platted the entire area. They sold off the residential eons ago. They retained much of the industrial, save for a few parcels. And so their thing was that they enjoyed being industrial landlords. They were getting good returns on their investments and saw no reason to change that. It was also a good tax base for the city. And so the discussion when I first came on the council 6 years ago was, let's redevelop everything, tear down all these warehouses and start building fun stuff like this. And I came to learn that a lot of what's going on in town is paid for by these businesses. I say all that to say, a little over a year ago, that all changed hands. So the entire area, say for a few parcels, changed hands from NT Realty to two different entities. One is the Merriman family, who own roughly north of 16, and AdCap Financial that own the rest of it down to the river. And so now there's opportunities. They're interested in redeveloping. When they did, they bulldozed the bowling alley that was already sort of on its way out. And so if you look just past the Oxbow Tower, there's a large swath of pavement that is currently sitting vacant and wait to see if the Royals discussions continue forward. Save for that, that's going to be a huge redevelopment opportunity. One way or another, something's going to get built there. And anytime a redevelopment happens, having been part of some downtown, part of some here, you do the environmental phase studies. You do phase 1, phase 2 if needed. And so we'll find out. There have been a lot of industrial users over the years, a lot of chemicals and paints and lubricant manufacturers, building supply companies. So there's gonna be challenges. We also have a source water protection program that says a lot of our drinking water is right under our feet right here. So we don't, as North Kansas City, we don't drink out of the river, we drink out of the aquifer under here. And so we have pretty strict guidelines over what can and can't be done over top of our aquifer. And so that could prevent some of the things, but it's all gonna be a very robust discussion once we get to a point where we can redevelop. So if Missouri Senate and legislature will just do a thing, if they'll vote yes or no on this package, we can start seeing some of that happen. I know we have a few more questions at least.
We try to keep it in an hour.
This is open-ended, yeah. Sure. Yeah, I heard most of that. Further requests for EV charging stations. I'm not aware of other programs that will fund it other than that federal grant. If there are out there, there's interest in the city of putting those in. What we kind of focused on when we discussed it previously is finding ways to get the fast charger, I forget what they call them, the level 3 chargers along the I-35 corridor, because those function effectively as gas stations for EVs. Like you can plug in and charge up quickly. The other part of that was partnering with businesses who have the need to put those charging spaces in their lots around town so that you can plug into a level 1 or level 2 and trickle charge while you're at work. Two really different use cases, and so we were trying to figure out where all those were going to go. We had some maps and some city parcels that were going to be in play. We had some private parcels that were going to be part of the discussion, but the grant didn't happen. And so if there are other funding sources, I'm all ears. I'd love to see that. Any further questions? Okay, George.
It isn't a comment, it's more a thank you for having this, because we've lived here for 6 years, 5.5. It's a nice change of pace just to get an open discussion about what's happening in the city, which we didn't have before. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Anybody? If anybody didn't hear that, George said thank you. Write that down. Appreciate you, George. I know you come to a lot of these, so thank you. Yes.
Okay, I have a fun question.
Sure.
Positive note, but thinking about school.
Say that again.
Your hat.
Oh, the hats. Oh, yeah. So my body double Kyle shows up wearing the exact same outfit. Hey, Kyle. These were Sandlot Goods hats, and they discontinued them for lack of interest, I guess. We bought the last 2 that were available. But if there's interest, which I wore this mostly when I was campaigning, a lot of interest. And so I'm going to reach back out to Sandlot Goods. It hasn't been on my first month agenda, but I'm going to reach back out to them. I also know that there's interest in NorthTown apparel, so I've been talking with the folks who do chicken and pickles apparel to see if they're interested in printing some NorthTown shirts and or hats, or if you have ideas or designs, if anybody's a graphic designer in the house, reach out. Great question though. They are cool hats.
What's your favorite?
Is there any talk about consistent signage and branding for the city? Something like this or something like that. And I know it's expensive to change that kind of stuff, but is there any talk about that?
Yeah, so I think it was 3 years ago we did a signage plan, and we got some. You'll see them around. They kind of got the wood facade front, and that went in tandem with our downtown streetscape program. there is a little bit of a, kind of a cobbled together feel outside of the downtown district. But if you're seeing specific spots that are kind of hitting your eye a little weird, take a picture and send them over so that it's hard to, like, in the abstract think about where we might be struggling. I know there's further talk about expanding the downtown streetscape further out in each direction, funding as it allows. But yeah, we did a signage thing. I know that it's not always obvious. We also had at one point a city council prior to me, like more than 6 to 8 years ago, put up a plan to put big pillar signs on each entrance to town. That's where we got the archway sign, and then there were going to be like big pillars, and then as time passed and they hadn't been put in, the cost just went through the roof. And I remember it was $75,000 per pillar, and so we decided not to go forward with that. But always open to improving the look and feel of town.
Just one quick comment. First of all, about the signage, I think there was one pillar that was going to be on I-35, but with that expansion of the highway and everything, that probably got put on hold. Then I'd like to personally apologize for the poor lighting on the edge. I mean, we looked at that, and I think we didn't get the lighting, or didn't look enough at the lighting, and then they wanted like $150,000 more for extra lights on there, which didn't make no sense. So,
Yeah.
sorry about that, Bill.
Yeah, so Zach is apologizing. He was part of that governing body that greenlit the signage plan, and he was apologizing for the arch because it's not as lit up as we had hoped. That's okay. It's a beautiful thing. It's in a lot of our pictures. It's on our calendars. It's really a great asset in town. So don't apologize, sir. I think it's beautiful.
Kyle Miles, resident. Jesse, I'm curious. I know you alluded to some of this in your campaign, but I'm just curious. Like, what are the things you're passionate about now that you've had kind of a little bit of time in yourself? Like, what are the biggest opportunities for North Kansas City? What are the areas you think we haven't necessarily been lacking, but what are the things you're excited to really lean into?
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. Question on what am I excited with the opportunities going on in town? I think I am excited to see the groundswell of civic engagement right now. Like, people coming in and making public comments. We've seen more public comments in the last few meetings than I can recall during the rest of my time on council. I've had people, so I put out a call for board and commission applications. I got so many people applying that now I'm like disappointing people by not allowing them to be part of the official boards. So now we're putting out ad hoc committees, and they're like, as soon as we throw something out, people are getting inundated with interest on these very niche ideas that are then going to come to council for action. So I'm like really excited to see how our residents are jumping in. The other stuff that I think we can do better that I'm excited to really push for is community building activities. So again, I say at every council meeting, I'm going to say it here, we have block party grants in town. If you're watching on here, we will give you $400 and we'll close off both ends of your block so you can hang out in the street with your friends and throw a party. It's getting warm, it's nice out. We haven't seen enough applications come through. Please start planning those. They are so much fun, and if you do, don't forget to invite me. I might pop by and make a fool of myself. Other things, so I've had discussions, very early discussions about potential street festivals or street fairs where we could even close down Armor Road. I've talked with some property owners where, like the bowling alley site or the grass lot here at Armor, what could we do in the interim before they get redeveloped to activate those parcels? Could we do food trucks? Could we do, because we do the mayor's Christmas tree lighting at the grass lot at the corner of Armor and Swift. What else can we do with this ground that is sitting vacant in our city? And there are ideas, there are things that could be accomplished. And so I'm having those direct conversations with the people who could make those decisions. So I'm really hoping to find opportunities. Ken has also been talking about, kind of took the idea that I had about community-wide gatherings, narrowed it down to ward-wide gatherings, so allowing people from each ward a time where the city's going to throw a party and, hey, come out and get to know your neighbors in your ward. Maybe learn what your ward is, that your wards exist. But finding ways to get broader community input, getting people out, meeting each other, I think that's the secret sauce that like makes North Kansas City what it is neighbors knowing neighbors, the community being a huge part of what's going on. So that's what I'm most excited. Last call. Oh, you got one over here?
Okay. For decades, I have uninvolved myself in North Kansas City. That's the first time I see here. You've been living here for decades. Nobody here probably knows. You've been living here for decades. A long time ago, I was on my department rec board and I was like super involved in it. The world is really different, and the whole thing just before it become ineffectual, neighbors don't talk to each other, and you've been here for like 6 years, but you know, I've been here for over 30 years in my house. I can tell you, I do not know a single soul that lives in any house on my block. And for these people to go and be involved, there has been a tug of war, yin yang, everyone can look at it between the people who want to live here and raise families, and the people who want to live here and get a return on their investment. So I'm kind of wondering if you, which side of that fence are you living on?
So that's an interesting dichotomy. That there are people looking for, so if you didn't hear the full question, people looking to raise a family and live here versus people who are looking for a return on investment. I'd say I live on both sides of that, to be completely honest. I'm living here, I'm raising my family here, I got 2 little girls, we're gonna be here a long time. But I also want to see North Kansas City flourish. I want to see us have fun and interesting things going on. I love what's happening over here. That we have a place like Chicken and Pickle that we can all get together. That we have new friends here that live at the Oxbow Tower. People were very split on something like this coming in, but now we have a fully booked up tower with a lot of people that you could get to meet that are going to be part of this community. And we have the McLean's in the bottom floor. That kind of flipped the script on everyone's like, hey, the cinnamon rolls were amazing. Now we're also mad about the tower. But there's a lot of opportunity in North Kansas City, and I feel for you that you don't know your neighbors. I think that would be an excellent reason to throw a block party. We'll write you a $400 check to get to know your neighbors.
You're not going to listen to person that show up.
Hey, come on, I'll be there. I'll come in. So these are the things, right? Like when I went, I knocked on probably 1,000 doors when I was campaigning. And a lot of what I heard from people is the same. Like, I don't know my neighbors. And we lost a lot of that during COVID. People got very comfortable being inside. They got very polarized politically. They got very used to getting on social media, hiding behind a profile picture, and arguing about the most mundane nonsense. And it's harder to argue with somebody when you're standing face to face and sharing a block party or having a plate of spaghetti. When you're sitting in a room, that's where real connections and real friendships get made. And that's why I'm pushing these gatherings, these block parties, that I think we can have both. I think we can have a North Kansas City that is fun and interesting and vibrant, and we can also have a place that is excellent for families and people who want to live here long term and know their neighbors. So I think we can move the needle in both directions, but I'm gonna put you on the list for block party. And the new resident welcome. Yes. Okay, last call for questions. Seeing none. Thank you all for coming out to the very first NorthTown Hall. There will be many more opportunities in the future. If you have further questions or thoughts or ideas that didn't come to you tonight, shoot me an email at mayor@nkc.org. Thanks again for coming out. Have a great night.